There we go. See if we can hear my mic now. Welcome to another session for My Amazon Guy. This is my weekly Q&A session. We do this every Friday at noon. You can come in and ask me any Amazon question. I do try and prioritize member questions. If you want to become a member, just hit the join button at youtube.com/myamazonguy. With that said, I am currently hiring for account managers. If you're a really friendly guy who's impatient, extroverted, and detail-oriented, and you have Amazon experience at an agency, we want to hear from you and would love to have you apply. Just send your resume over to jobs@myamazonguy.com. All right, we're going to jump in first. Start with Jeffrey's question here. I can see the number of organic keywords on Helium-10 for an ASIN. Is there a report I can run, H10 or Amazon, to see how my organic keyword placement total number of organic keywords is improving over time? And so, yes, there is. I recommend you track the keywords inside of Helium-10. And what you're going to do is you're going to click the add keyword button inside of Helium-10. This does require a subscription. And then it will tell you on a Monday, you're ranked at slot 7. And on Wednesday, you're slot 3. And you go back down to slot 5 on Friday. And it will track it on a day-to-day basis. It can be very beneficial if you're trying to figure out like how your keywords are doing. I do this for my own products, for my wine glasses. It's very beneficial. I'm trying to log in on another screen here on Helium-10, see if I can showcase this in the keyword tracker. And I think it's beneficial because once you take an action, you're like, hey, how do I measure this to see what it's doing and what the impact is of it? All right, so let's see. I've got my screen ready to go. I'm going to click share screen here. So in here, I've got 4,200 keywords tracked. I'm just going to pull up my social distancing glass. You guys can watch the keywords fall off a cliff when it loses its advertising capacities in February. I don't check this very often for myself, but all right, let's look at this one. Well, okay, here we go. So you can see number of keywords in the top 50. I've got 159 on this one. And you can see the trend. So here's an example, unique wine glass. So it was in rank 134 in June, got all the way up to 70, fell back off. Then there was a time period between 7.5 and 7.8. It had no indexing for that keyword. So you can find trends like this to say, hey, there's a problem here, right? You stop indexing for it. So this is how you would do it. Again, this is in the analytics keyword tracker section. You can hit add keyword to it. You can track it for all of your products at the child ASIN level. Hopefully found that beneficial. All right. And by the way, if anybody does want to sign up for Helium-10, thought that was beneficial, I do have a 50% off code, and I will post that in the chat. So if you want to get a discount when you're first signing up for Helium-10, you can type in the code MyAmazonGuy50. All right, there you go. Just post that in the chat there. All right, let's go to the next question. Looking for our member questions first. Abdallah says, I launched my first product and got around a 3% review rate. Half of them is ratings. Is that a good ratio? Should I work on improving? Actually, the review ratio is about 1%. So if you're picking up like 1% reviews and 2% ratings, you're actually beating the average quite a bit. I'd say that's a pretty good rate, Abdallah. If you send out email requests for reviews, you might be able to get an extra 1%. That's like max. That's just how few people leave reviews, unfortunately. And with Amazon being plagued with fake reviews and it's hard to get real reviews, kind of sucks, right? All right, let's go to the next member question here. We've got Daniel asking, I love the introduction soundtrack. Woohoo! Thank you, appreciate that. Jeffrey says, in general, what is considered a good conversion rate? So the answer to that is, I think anything under 8% is bad. Between 8 and 12% is good / average. And anything above 12% is exceptional. Anything above 20%, though, and that's a bad thing too, because you're leaving sales on the table. You're not spending enough on ads, from my experience. Now, those trend lines I just gave you should be different in each category. But from my experience, those are pretty solid baselines. I forgot to read the rest of your question here. Also, what low traffic listing with high conversion rate is not that impressive? What traffic level is needed to get reliable conversion rate to get the stat? I'd say, I don't know, 200 or 300 a month probably is probably enough. Any less than that, it's a little suspicious. So I would try and shoot for a few hundred if you can. Cupcake Sprinkles, good to see you. Due to combined keywords, index for both. Can flaxseed oil, liquid and organic flaxseed oil be combined into organic flaxseed oil, liquid, and index for both keywords? I think I understand your question, and the answer is yes, if I do understand it. So if you have different phrasing of a keyword, you could absolutely rank for both. You can index for both. So sometimes you want to have your title have multiple iterations or phrasing of your keywords to accommodate that. So if you can get an exact match, that's usually ideal, but it's not required to index or something. But generally, if you're at like rank 8 or 10 or something like that, by getting an exact match, you might bump up to rank, top 5. And that's generally why you go for those exact matches. So feel free to give me any follow-up question on that if I didn't give you exactly what you're looking for there. SC Trojan, I created 2 shipment plans for 1750 units when my max inventory level was 2,000. I just checked. My max has gone down to 1,000. My shipments are on the way. What would have happened? So I actually put a video out about this, I think it was yesterday, where I talk in detail about max inventory limits. It's definitely a hot topic right now. I'll see if I can put a link to this in the chat. You'll want to watch this one after today's session. But it's still a very frustrating problem right now. So SC Trojan, watch this shipping restriction video next. Posted that in the chat for you. And basically, long story short, summarizing that video, Amazon's out of space. There's just no way. There's no alternative to that, unfortunately. So that's the main problem. Umar says, can't see your screen clearly. Can you guys let me know what you see in the chat? Am I coming through okay? Maybe it's just LinkedIn that's having a problem. I'm not completely sure. I don't know if I have a problem or not. Let me know. All right. Abdullah says, do you have full Amazon account management at My Amazon Guy? We do. We do everything from PPC, SEO, design, and catalog, merchandising, and troubleshooting. So if you look at our website, just go over to services, full service management. This page details everything that's in scope, basically everything in Amazon except touching your product physically. We can help you create shipments and all that stuff too. But you can see all of these kinds of examples: A+Content, brand store, listing optimization, parentage, brand name change, listings, you name it. We cover it all. I'd say it's very easy to find a PPC agency, not hard to find that at all. Very difficult to find a holistic full service agency, especially for the catalog work, and nobody can do SEO like we do. So if those are things that you're interested in, you can talk to my dad today. If you just literally go on the website and you type in grow sales faster here and select at least 2 of these, when you submit this form, you'll get in touch with my father, Dan Pope. He's the sales manager, and you can get a call set up with him same day. And by the way, Dan Pope, who is my father, will be at the Prosper Show next week. So if you want to run into Dan, you can see him. So we also had a little short video if you want to watch more about getting in touch with Dan and talking to us about sales. Do you have full Amazon account management at MAG, like the start of a product hunting all the way? So the one thing we don't do is we don't source products, unfortunately. And that's because sourcing is such a commoditized activity. It's not price competitive for me to do it. You could hire a guy in Pakistan for less than $4 an hour, and he would be just as good at sourcing your product as My Amazon Guy. Blunt truth. It's just so easy to find good sourcing agents these days. So I would definitely find an external sourcing agent to help you, especially if you're doing it through Alibaba the first time. If you want to go like tour manufacturing facilities and go to China, that's a whole different ball game, and you need a much more corporate type opportunity there. Will they reject my shipment now that I'm over the max limit? No, they won't. That'll go through just fine. Sorry, I didn't address that. So basically, the shipping restrictions will just prevent you from creating new shipments. They won't penalize you if you go over for a past shipment that already previously qualified. But if your IPI score diminishes or has a problem at the end of the quarter, that's when the problem could occur. That's when you might have a problem. But I think that'll check in just fine. No problem at all. All right. So I'm going to scroll to the top now. I'm going to go from top to bottom. Got all the member questions caught up. Mike says, hello, Steve. Please advise, who should we follow for guidance on PPC and how to manage existing and make new campaigns? There are so many videos on YouTube with different strategies. Please enlighten us. I do have a PPC playlist that might be a good starting point for you. The trick here is that there's just so much changes to PPC's landscape right now, right? Like, you got a ton of AI and robots trying to do their thing. You got Amazon opening up all kinds of new types of advertising, right? So just in the last week alone, you can now target product detail pages with videos. That's kind of a big deal. But if you go over to my playlist section, and I'm actually looking for the PPC one right now, struggling a little bit with this, you can see all of our playlists. Let's see, I see created playlists, how to create your own successful videos. Where's my PPC one? Well, I don't see it right at the top, but I know I have like 20 videos in a PPC playlist. I have 750 videos on YouTube. So generally when I can't find something, what I do is I go to Google and I type in PPC, my Amazon guy, and that's how I find my own videos. So let's see what came up for that. The video section didn't even trigger. So that's interesting. All right. So here's one of them. Keyword isolation. Check this one out. This is a good video on a PPC hack for you today. So PPC video, and I believe it might have the playlist connected to that video, possibly. But that was a very well-liked video. Thomas says, your thoughts on environmental pledge friendly. So Thomas, I'll be honest. I think a lot of the corporate speak for things can be minimal at best for sales velocity increases. And I'll give you an example. I used to work at a precious metals company called Atmex, sold gold and silver coins, $1 billion company. I helped actually increase their SEO traffic by 10 million uniques year over year. And you can look it up in SEMrush or any keyword tool of your choice to hold me accountable and prove it. And while I was working there, every year they would survey customers, and they would do something nice for customers every year, and they try and give something away. So like one year they gave away like really cool popcorn, caramel popcorn bags or something like that. And then the next year they didn't. And then they were surveying and they did different things. And basically bottom line is, when they did their survey, customers came back and said, why don't you just give us more money or give us a better discount or a better rate? And nobody really gave any feedback about the kindness that they did or environmental pledges. Like it just depends on your clientele and like your vertical, right? So if I was selling dog poop bags, then an environmental pledge probably would go over very well, right? But if I was selling, I don't know, an aftermarket car part, I doubt the environmental pledge friendly would do anything. In fact, it might even decrease your conversion rates. So I would just say it just depends on your category. But by and large, not a big fan of those kinds of things. I don't want to get political, but I will say that I think that these made up holidays, these made up things generally don't add a lot of value, right? Like you can qualify for a badge, but then not actually do anything for the environment. Not a big fan of that. When running Cerebro for the same product on one day and then the other, I see quite a big difference for my top ranking keywords. Is that your experience as well? Yes, that's because the trend lines swap all the time. You're going to want to hit that tracking keyword button and add those keywords to track them over time. That's the biggest, most important thing I'll tell you. Brandon says, hey, Steven, for our first launch, we sent in 150 units, sold 50 so far, but the remaining stock all in one fulfillment center in Boise, Idaho. Used to live in Rexburg, Idaho myself. The snow will come in October and then melt in May. So it just never melts, I swear. Our delivery date for the East Coast is 2 weeks. What can we do to change that? So if you are talking FBA, that would be unusual for you to have a 2-week delivery time window. I'm wondering if your fulfillment center is your own 3PL, and that might be the problem. So if that's the case, you need to have a second warehouse on the East Coast. That's the obvious answer. If you're having 2-week shipments out of one FBA facility, though, that's super weird and unusual. And I would ask Amazon to do a stock transfer on your behalf. You could probably file a ticket. You may not get the answer you're looking for in the first ticket. Try a couple of them. Sometimes it's got to be squeaky wheel to get the oil on that. Follow up with your age of sage. Has your tacos gone up since Mother's Day has ended? Yes, it has. So the product is very mother focused. And so during the month of June, we all forget our mothers and we buy things for dad. And that's pretty normal. So I'm definitely way higher on tacos than I like to be for my age of sage product. For those that don't know what we're talking about, if you go over to Amazon and type in age of sage mothers, you will find my product right here. Well, okay, there we go. It took a while to find it. And this is a Mother's Day kits, made $135,000 in the first 3 weeks that we launched this, leading into Mother's Day with only one product review, no external traffic. And we did this to prove it's still possible to make all of that happen. So now we're at 5-star review average at 114 reviews, doing quite well with it. But my sales velocity is definitely way lower than it would be during Mother's Day. And also, we might have a hijacker. Let's check this out. So let's click on. Nope, that's not a hijacker. That's just me with my second fulfillment method. Sometimes I pick up on things and then I'm like, oh, wait, that's right. I have a duplicate SKU on the same ASIN. So if I ever run out of FBA, I have a backup method. So yes, seasonal products, gift-giving products, sometimes you have to jockey for position in advance of a time period. So between now and basically November, this product will probably be pretty minimal. And then I'll have a gigantic Christmas rush. So that's what I'm planning on. Mohammed says, since Amazon has stopped showing buyer addresses, how can we send replacements to the buyers now without asking for their address? Or is it okay for their address on Amazon? So generally speaking, if it's an FBA item, they want you to push the customer back to amazon.com/contact, and then they will send the replacement. You could ask for an address to send a replacement manually if you want, but that's not what Amazon likes. I'd say it's okay. It's kosher. You're not going to get in trouble for it. If it's a merchant fulfilled order, you do have their shipping address and you can take care of it. But that's generally where Amazon's trying to like draw the line, and they want to take care of their own fulfillment orders. Lunga says, hello, Stephen. When having a product with 2 color variations, is it okay to create PPC campaigns on both or just one variation? So I would say I would create it on both. What I would generally do is I'd probably create 3 campaigns, one for each color with the same keywords. And then I would also create a dedicated campaign for the color plus those keywords for each of those 2 variations. By doing this, you're going to segment the approach. For example, you could take shirts, right? So like I've got the My Amazon Guy shirt here. It's black. And so let's say I had a white and a black version. Well, I might create 3 campaigns. One where I have generic keywords where I just say My Amazon Guy shirt, My Amazon Guy t-shirt. And then on the second campaign, I would say black My Amazon Guy shirt, black t-shirt, right? And then the third one would be white shirt, white My Amazon Guy shirt. So that's how I would segment the campaigns. You could put both colors together in the same campaign, but Amazon will absolutely default to whichever one it thinks will convert the best. So keep that in mind. Sue says, my best ASIN has disconnected from my brand after reset from AZ fails, told to upload a template file. I'm GTIN exempt without a GTIN, won't reconnect the brand. Amazon says no solution. Sue, here's your solution. Go to eBay, buy a UPC code, load it to your product, do a template upload. I bet you it fixes it. Not what you're looking to hear, but it is 100% going to fix it. I've fixed this exact issue on many, many coaching calls personally. You need to load a UPC code. Anybody that says it's okay to have exempt GTIN on Amazon today will run into these problems. The catalog problems are extremely common on Amazon. They're even more common when you don't have a data point to map your product back to. That's why the UPC matters. So without a unique identifier, you're going to have all kinds of brand registry issues. Enver says, hi, Stephen. We have opened an account under my LLC. First month, we won't have any sales. Does Amazon still inform our state, or should we file taxes as no sales? So here's the good news. Amazon doesn't really police this at all. And so you're going to go directly to your state and do your own thing with your own LLC and your own Nexus and whatever your CPA says to do. So what I would do, though, is I basically, I wouldn't file anything with the state until you have something to file. Right now, certain states are a little more anal retentive, and you do have to file zeros to get through that. And if that's in your case, you're going to have to do that. But many states, they don't force you to do anything until year end if you have zeros. So really not something to worry about too much. Go worry about the marketing, get the sales, worry about the accounting later. You can always pay a $20 late filing fee if you have to. Mohammed says, since Amazon has stopped showing, we already did that one. SG says, what's the best way to approach the restock limit these days? I have about 5,000 units of restock inventory with no way of sending to Amazon. Do you have any recommendations for good 3PLs? So everybody's in the same boat. I've seen LinkedIn and other social posts about people having to send their warehouse home without work and without pay because this is a gigantic problem, unfortunately. So the right thing to do is to try and get a 3PL just like you're trying to do, or have your own warehouse. But keep in mind the supply chain is just gigantically wrecked right now. Everybody is in the same boat. Everybody's out of space. You're going to be lucky to get a warehouse that will be responsive or have reasonable fees. No matter where you go, you're going to have a problem. So just keep that in mind. Not the answer people want to hear, but to be honest, I think this is the current state of affairs for at least another year, maybe even 2. That's how jacked up the supply chain is. Anytime the government's purposely trying to stall or turn off its own economy, you're going to run into situations like this, right? Like price of wood, right? Why did the lumberjacks stop chopping wood down? That doesn't make any sense, right? Like there wasn't even a COVID risk, chopping wood down. So there's some structural problems, geopolitics, that are just massively underlying the problem. Take for example, with China, it takes $24,000 to get a 40-foot container out of China right now. And 2 years ago, it was like $4,000. So there's just giant inflationary type problems right now. And so open up your own warehouse, take care of yourself with that. If you absolutely can't, you're going to have to rely upon FBA. Maybe ship it out of your basement, bring it into your home, do what you got to do to get around that. Bootstrap, if you will. Mohammed says, I use River Source Logistics in California. You guys are always welcome to post referrals, recommendations. Very happy to allow you guys to talk about that. Good Plus, I use Right Prep Shipping in New York. They're good too. Thank you, Mohammed, for passing on those 2 recommendations. All right, so Quasi, I am struggling to get into a 3PL and freight forwarder. Thank you for sharing. If you can please elaborate a little more detail about those 2 services. So Mohammed, Quasi is interested to learn more about those. Mike says, you heard the news below about sea shipping. President Joe Biden will announce a new executive order asking the Federal Maritime Commission to combat what's being called a pattern of consolidation and aggressive pricing that has made it erroneously expensive for American companies to transport goods to market. I guess that's the bully pulpit, if you will. I don't have a lot of faith in it, to be totally honest. I don't have a lot of faith in our government right now, but I hope it works because there's definitely a lot of extortion going on right now. Very, very big problems. Decode says, I brought an ailing brand. I changed old repetitive keywords, which were not relevant, to more relevant ones, but the ranking went down after 4 to 5 days. So check your conversion rates. Check your PPC campaigns. Make sure you didn't lose any impressions. Make sure your conversion rate didn't go down. Did you change the main image? Did you change anything else? I think it's very beneficial to change out your keywords. I think the risk is minimal at best. You should not be losing ranking on words that you're swapping out. You really, really shouldn't be. So there might be another problem that's just coinciding. In marketing, it's very difficult sometimes where you do 10 actions and you're like, well, I think half my marketing sucks and was wasted, but you don't know which half. That kind of applies here a little bit. So I recommend trying to get, a little bit more information to look at this issue to see if you can find out where the problem is. All right, scrolling down here. Can't see your screen clearly. We already fixed that. Scrolling down, we had a lot of questions to go through. Can you give any tips on bids adjustments? Well, hey, Robbie. So bid adjustments, I would say it's generally best practice to make slow changes on PPC bids. So for example, you got a 75-cent bid today, maybe changing that to 82 cents if you want to get more impressions. Vice versa, you got an ACOS of 40%. You're trying to get the ACOS down to 30. Don't cut your PPC bids by 25%. Instead, take that 75-cent bid and go down to 71 cents, 69 cents, something like that, and try and get the bid to cooperate accordingly. So the reason why you want to do that is because you need to make sure you don't do something so abrupt that it messes with the PPC algorithm. And that's my number one tip is make modest changes twice a week, directional changes. Most of the automated algorithms do the same thing. So the ad badgers of the world, the quartile, the intent wise, there's Celix, there's so many different automatic campaign bid adjusters. And so it's very possible to program aggression into it, but we found from our experience that aggression typically leads to really poor results. So you got to be a little bit more succinct on that. All right, so we got the audio and video figured out. SG says, what's the best way to approach the restock limit? Any recommendations we got a lot of people talking about restock today. Very, very good. So we got a few, if anybody else wants to share their own 3PL or warehouse, you're welcome to in the chat here. Everybody seems to be very, very interested in that. All right, so let's go to Obin. Do you see any aggregators as a threat to mag long term? Absolutely. $3.2 billion entering the space. I'm an ant. I'm a peanut compared to these guys, right? And so they absolutely could be a giant risk to me. They could start their own agencies. They could buy all my clients out, 100%. Now, during the months of January until April, I was paying very explicitly close attention because the market forces were so gigantic. I was like really laser focused in. I interviewed 35 of the aggregators myself. And I think we're in the second inning right now. I think most of the Amazon aggregators don't know what to do with their money. They think they need to go buy Amazon brands, but they haven't really formulated a plan beyond that. There's probably about 10 smart ones. And I'd say 3 to 5 powerhouse opportunity Amazon aggregators out there right now. So yes, I do think there are threats, but I don't think they're going to be an immediate threat. I think of them as more of a long-term threat. We do service some of the aggregators ourselves. We do provide services, but I think that the $1 million mom and pop sellers are going to be my bread and butter probably forever. And that's really where we focus our brand, is generally on brands that have a smaller shop compared to the conglomerate 20 account aggregator roll-ups. So we're really focused on that. All right. So how do you compete if your pricing for your product is expensive on Amazon, where competitors have a lower price point and more features? How do you compete? You don't. It's not the answer you're looking for, but you will not compete with somebody who has a lower price and more features. It's not possible. So I think that the past of Amazon was low pricing and fast shipping. And right now, once we get past the supply chain woes, it's going to be going to high quality product and American made. If you want my advice, this is not easy to solve, but if you want my advice, make something in America today before everybody else and their dogs brings back manufacturing to the States. Everybody's going to be like, oh, it's not possible. And I can make it in China for 30 cents on the dollar. And I get it. I hear you. But you want to know how to compete with commodity pricing. That's how you compete with it. You make a better product, higher quality, and you make it locally. And the nice thing about that is you overcome some of the supply chain woes, but it requires vertical control. It's not easy. B2C manufacturing in the States almost is non-existent. There's very few exceptions to that. B2B manufacturing in the States does quite well. You could make fire retardant toilets, seats for airlines. There's a manufacturer in Georgia for that. In fact, I've toured their facilities. So I would say the only other thing you can do is go for a lifestyle brand or go create messaging that adds a community aspect to your product. One of my favorite go-to explanations is my silly metaphor where I ask, what's the target demographic or target customer for a Russian mail order bride? And it's a silly metaphor. I go to it from time to time because it's memorable. And the answer is 3-time divorced truck drivers, right? And the reason why that's the answer is because those are the people that, struggled, they've been married, they're on the road. And if you identify your target demographic down to that kind of level, you can then create tons of content around that demographic. So if, 3-time divorced truck drivers, I know that they're going to need travel guides. They're going to need to know how to live out of their truck. They're going to need, how to be dateable when you maybe haven't shaved in 2 weeks. Like those are the kinds of things and the kinds of content that you're going to want to create if you were targeting that demographic, right? One of the weirdest things in our society of political culture is that profiling is seen as a negative thing. And in fact, in the marketing world, it's a necessity, right? Like you need to profile your customers really deeply. To try and sell the same product to a wide net, you're going to have a smaller tent, believe it or not. So figure out how to position your product as a cultural type of product. Dr. Kaz, good to see you. I'm using tactics by the affiliate marketing world to improve my top funnel traffic on my Shopify. What's your opinion in long expert articles to trigger Google traffic and keyword rankings? So I think it's a great idea. It just takes a different set of skills. It's a bigger investment. Prior to my Amazon focus, I was an SEO guy, like full time. The reason I was able to get the company AppMix an extra 10 million unique visitors year over year is because I used 2,000 pages of content production to do exactly what you're talking about. You could then funnel them over to Amazon. So I'd say if we were to profile 1,000 Amazon sellers, just like the average 1,000 Amazon sellers, I bet you maybe 3 of them are doing that tactic. That's a very rare tactic. It's also not one we produce at My Amazon Guy. It just requires a totally different skill set and vertical. But basically, yes, I do recommend it. Any external traffic that you can push to Amazon and ranking through through articles and affiliates, definitely very valuable. Amazon wants to grow. They see Walmart as a long-term threat, even though Walmart is pretty much incompetent and can't combine its POS, that's point of sale system, with its own technology, right? And so every time I say POS, people are like, "Oh, don't say that." No, I mean point of sale. So you got to make sure your POS system, oh, now I did it, can connect to your internet. And then when you go buy Jet, but you can't integrate it with Walmart's facilities, it's kind of weird. If you ever try and do like grocery pickup at Walmart, it's a terrible experience. But if you do it at Target, it's amazing, right? Like I go back, heck, my wife sends me out to do these pickups. We're getting diapers for 4 kids under 6. Heck yeah, send me to Target. Don't send me to Walmart. I want to sit a half hour in the parking lot waiting for somebody to get to my car. That's what it's like to order through Walmart right now. That's why they can't integrate and be competitive with Amazon. So we'll see what happens. All right, V says, what are your thoughts on vendor partnerships? Amazon keeps contacting us about it, but I'm unsure if it would benefit us. So if you're talking selling first-party sales, 1P directly to Vendor Central, I hate it. I think Vendor Central is a terrible platform. I think that you can't control your own pricing. Amazon rigs the system. It's a total giant mess. I'm a huge fan of Seller Central. I'm all in on it. I highly recommend everybody to be on the Seller Central platform. There are exceptions to this. However, the larger your brand is, the more corporate you are, the more likely a vendor relationship would make sense. For example, if you have a wide distribution network and you're selling wholesale to 100 different locations, being 1P would actually make sense, because if you show up in Seller Central and you got 17 other guys showing up on Seller Central as well, selling your same good, you're going to have pricing go down, and then your partnerships are going to erode because you can't control your map, yada, yada, yada. And so in that situation, a first-party relationship would make sense, because Amazon will steal the buy box and take it over, ships and sold by Amazon style. And so that's the one time I like vendor partner relationships, but you got to be really big for that to make sense. Studio 11 says, hey, Stephen, is the limit for a new seller still 200 products on the first shipment? I'll be honest, I think it is, but I'm not 100% on this. I think that might have changed in May. That was my last big product launch. I made that change. I made the shipment for Age of Sage right before they made an announcement on the restrictions. But for new sellers, there might still be some new seller restrictions, but they overall have gone away from ASIN specific restrictions to more seller specific restrictions. So you may or may not have that problem. The only way to find out is to test it. And the more I think about it, I'm trying to think back to some of my clients. I think it actually has gone away. I'm pretty sure. If anybody else knows for sure, feel free to weigh in. Dr. Kaz, I have many of my products ranking number 1 on Google search, which is great. Do you believe Google scans Amazon based on reviews and ranking and adjusts its own SERPs? What is your insight here? Anybody that claims to know the answer to this really doesn't, but I will tell you, I suspect I do know the answer. And what I would say is, I don't think that they're factoring reviews. I think they're factoring engagement. So Amazon ranks really well on the top of Google because it's an engaging. Google knows that if somebody finds an Amazon listing, they're like 4 times more likely to spend time than if they find my random brandwebsite.com, right? So because of that, Amazon's SEO signals are so gigantic that they follow the engaging process that Google SEO seeks, and therefore do rank higher. But I don't think that they're factoring in reviews per se, but they might be. I'm not sure. Let's see. But I do know that the engagements is the primary driver. Jeffrey says, I have a dog probiotic ranked at around 68 in dog probiotic subcategory. How do I find out the total number of dog probiotics in that subcategory? The only way you could do that, Jeffrey, is to use a tool like Helium 10, Jungle Scout. And I'll kind of demonstrate what I would do if I were you. I would go to Amazon. I would type in dog probiotic, and then I would crawl this. So there's 1,000 results at least for this. And then I would click on the Chrome extension tool. I would do the product research tool, and then I would click on see more. And then I would download that and basically just try and extrapolate what you see from that data. The other thing you could do is you could use a niche finder tool inside of Helium 10, Jungle Scout, or whatever. But you can basically see a lot of top line stats here just by looking at the top 50 or so products, and really get a good handle on it. So we know that this particular product is crushing it on Amazon, right? Like this is, supposedly doing like $4 million a month on Amazon, which is killer. And so what was its rank on here? It's ranked 48 on Amazon. So at the very top, you're going to see some really, really high run rates. But as you scroll down and you get into like the 50th products, you're going to see in the 23,000 BSR range, and then the revenue could drop down substantially. I mean, you can see 2,300 here for 100 sales a month. So you're not going to be able to get a perfect answer on this, Jeffrey, but you're going to be able to crawl a bunch of data, put it all into an Excel sheet and extrapolate to find out. But if your number is 68 right now, I'd say looking at the top 100 is probably all you need to do, really. Lee says, what's your thoughts on ASINs that are using a third-party UPC code, not a GS1 code? I have a product with over 2K reviews with an old code. Could Amazon block the listing? I don't think they will, Lee. Amazon does want to see GS1 codes moving forward, but many categories you can still get away with just buying codes off eBay or another third-party source. Me personally, I'm still using them. I do not buy GS1 codes today. We did have a really good interview for a GS1 expert that came on the podcast a couple months ago. You may find value in watching that. I'll send you a link to that one. So let's see if I can find it. So I think I'm sending my Facebook link here on this one, GS1 interview. Check that one out. But yeah, we had a very good interview, lots of Q&A that came in about that. Like what can you do? You can't easily transfer the UPC from old to new on Amazon. That's why I think this is a change I would make on new products only, not on old product. I think new products, I would maybe bite the bullet and do some GS1. But keep in mind, once you do GS1 for the brand in any shape or form, you will have to do it permanently moving forward. Jay says, in one ASIN's A+Content showing there is a retail contribution, so we're not able to change Amazon's A+Content. What may be the reason for retail's contribution other than Vendor Central? So the catalog team at Amazon generally only focuses on Vendor Central listings, but they frequently do come out and go at high velocity listings. It could be that somebody had sorry, my webcam. Come on. There you go. So with that in mind, you're going to have to ask Amazon to release its contribution. It's very rare for them to lock an A+Content module. Very, very rare. What I would do if I were you is I would file brand registry tickets to try and take control of it. We heard rumors all the way back in January that Amazon was going to make brand registry higher than the Amazon catalog team. That's definitely not happened. But it would be nice if it did. Brand registry tickets, though, for non-A+Content issues generally do have a lot of success. You might see it revert again a couple months later, though. That's the number one problem. Nicholas says, hi, my Amazon guy. I notice with my sales, I think you mean, when my inventory is low, less than 30 or 20 units, my sales slow down significantly. That's because Amazon knows you're going to stock out. And so they do factor that in, believe it or not. Your number of inventory, they know if I got 1,000 units sitting here and they give me the conversion that I'm going to be able to blow through the units and make them more money. So yes, this is a way lesser known fact and detail about Amazon sales, that if you have low inventory, Amazon will nerf your visibility. Now, during high spikes, holiday events, you may not be able to measure or feel that, however. So like during the Christmas rush, a lot of people stock out, like half of the SKUs on Amazon stock out. It feels like made that number up. And that's just because there's just high demand. Chris says, how do you validate if a product will sell or not before launching? So there's a couple things you can do. You can run some pick food tests or some other analytics data to see if there's any information out there about what people are interested in. So for example, you could run your proposed graphic against your competitors to see which one would get more clicks. That would be one indication. You could also ask if a consumer would prefer your flavor, scent, color, whatever, your feature over your top competitor. If you can pull enough weight, right? So let's say you can get let's say that the customer picks your competitor 70% of the time, but picks you 30. That's going to be a pretty good indication you're going to have a hard time pulling away from them. But if you get 60% of the votes and the competitor gets 40 before you even bought the product, you probably might be onto something. A lot of big brands are using analytics and data prior to launching. The other thing you could do is you can look at the category size and look at some of that data. Now, keep in mind, everybody can see the same data. So if you look at something and see, oh, there's only 3 products live in this subcategory, but 1 million impressions. Well, everybody else in their DAWs can see that same thing, and you're going to have way more competition pop out 3, 6, 9 months later. So keep that in mind too. So generally speaking, for every 3 products I launch, 1 will fail outright, lose money. The second will break even. The third will be the winner that we reorder. So 30% is a pretty solid percentage. But even really good marketers can't really get much higher than that 33%. So just keep that in mind. Nicholas says, hi, I noticed, I think we did that one. Mike says, do you know or recommend any program to calculate the cost of items or profit? So I plug Helium 10 all the time. They're not built to specifically do profit, but they do have an add-on tool that does do some cost of good analysis, and I do recommend it. It's better than nothing. I don't think it's like best in class compared to like Seller Legend or Profitero, but at the same time, depending on the size of your company and what your needs are, Helium 10 might be enough for you. We did post 50% off Helium 10. Just scroll up, you can find the code for that. So I would use that at bare minimum just so you can see where you're losing your money. Gilbert says, any insight on Amazon bulk tagging sellers with restricted product claims? Even they sell on shoes and they are a third-party seller. So this is all about keywords and details and descriptions and copy that you're supplying. Pesticides is the stupidest thing that ever happened on Amazon, because like, how many of you like listening to the audience right now, like have ever met anybody that sells pesticide products on Amazon? I'll wait. Like nobody, right? I was the first person to post the public answer key to the pesticides test because I was so like absurdly, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. And like just in the last 72 hours, I've gotten 10 emails from my own clients where their items are being removed for pesticides. And I have to sit there and explain to them, yep, this is normal. Happens to everybody. Super sorry. We're working on it. We'll get it back up as quickly as we can. And it makes us look bad as an agency, but like, this is totally normal. Like this is the normal expectations and ecosystem right now. And like, so if you're selling bed sheets and you put something in there, like the word smooth or another word, they'll just flag it for pesticides. Then you got to provide docs. It's really dumb. So really, really big problematic. Open's giving us a fist emoji. Sweet. Right back at you. Michael says, I have submitted ASTM and CPSIA certificates for my toy product, but the support team is still asking for a CPC certificate. Why? Note the lab is approved who did the test. So they're looking for the vernacular of the test. So you may want to ask the test to just simply slap on the name of the certificate they're looking for. There's a bunch of key things that they are looking for on this testing data. Your address needs to match. We could probably help you with this. If you want to hire us for a coaching call, we can look at your documents and figure that out. I also sometimes will refer out to the funnel guru, specifically in the toy product clearance issues, because they're really good at that one. That'll cost you a few $100, but it depends on how quick you want to go. Would you recommend using a virtual assistant in the Philippines for a day-to-day help for listing setup, shipments, customers, etc.? How can I find them if yes? It depends on the size of your company and what you know. So more sophisticated outfits, absolutely. You should be using virtual talent. But if you don't know how to train them, they are not going to add value. The talent pool internationally has a ton of like willing people who are willing to go do what you ask of them, but they're not going to know how to do what you ask of them. So you're going to need to have really good standard operating procedures to provide them. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. So at my Amazon guy, we have 80 employees. Half of my staff is international. We use a matrix where we have PPC and SEO and catalog troubleshooting and merchandising offshore. And they're full-time employees, and they work with us day in and day out, and they're phenomenal at what they do. In fact, I think I can find better talent internationally on those specific things. What I can't find internationally, though, is strategic thinkers that can look ahead, who can also manage client relations, right? So for that, I have to hire locally with good US speakers because of that. And so it just really depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a PPC specialist internationally, you're going to need to spend at least 40 grand to find a good one, which you're like, at that point, you might as well hire US. That's how in demand the talent is, right? If you're looking for somebody who doesn't need a lot of hand holding. But if you know how to make the SOP, you could hire somebody on a variety of different service platforms. One of the ones I use is onlinejobs.ph to hire. You can find talent $4 an hour there. If you go through another third-party service where they find some of the talent and qualify them a little bit more, I'm trying to remember. Free Up is one of them I used to use a couple of years ago. But you're going to be paying, $10 an hour instead. Talent pool, very in demand right now. And then once you find them, retaining them is also a problem. So one of the big cultural problems that we see internationally, especially in the Philippines, is they'll two-time you. They'll say they're working on your stuff, but they're working on somebody else's stuff. And that's one of the biggest problems we face. So we actually use Time Doctor to track our staff internationally to make sure we get screenshots and see what they're working on. So one of the managerial things that I talk to people about at my own company is I'll tell people, hey, people are going to respect what you inspect. So just be prepared for a lot of inspection. Your break-even point on an international hire virtual assistant is probably going to be around week 5. You're going to have to put a lot of upfront attention details in to find out if they're going to work for you. I want to sell pet food. Any thoughts or tips? Yes, probably the second most competitive category on Amazon. So I wouldn't recommend it if it's your first item. Pet supplements for humans are very, very competitive as well. The problem that you're going to find, Nathan, is that everybody loves dogs. Everybody thinks they can make the best pet food ever, and then create some sort of cultural phenomenon, luxury brand. And simply put, pet food's expensive to ship logistically, and it's very hard to create brand loyalty. So there's just a lot of options out there, and it's generally not something I would recommend to start out at. Now, if you were already a pet retailer and you're looking for an add-on item, pet food would totally make sense, right? If I already sold collars and I was going to add pet food, yeah, that would make sense. New Chapter says, hi, I want to add another variation that has a different material to my first product, but same price. Should I sell it in the same listing or do a second listing as the material is different? What I would do is I would create a parentage with a style variation and see which one does better. The old listing will almost always win just from having the ranking, but you can test it. By having the new listing in the same parentage, you also share the reviews in most categories, but in the future that probably won't happen. So generally parenting a new variation is very, very beneficial. If both become on equal footing, that's when I would break the parentage out because they could rank for more terms in search. This is one of my favorite dialogues on parentage to have is like, when do you parent something? When do you split it? And when in doubt, parent them. But the number one way you want to split them is if they are both doing well, or if you have, let's say you got 20 variations, you got 2 that are doing well, break them into 10 and 10, because the one that's doing well will rank in search results, and you only get 1 search result on a parentage. So this is a very hard thing to demonstrate or explain. So if there's some of you watching that are just like not sure what I'm talking about, I do have a parentage video series you may want to check out that I go into a little bit more detail on this question. So I'll post one of my parentage videos here and you guys can check that out. So there we go. All right. Author says, hello, Stephen. How do I go about changing my current brand name using flat files? I don't want to delete my listing. You might have to. So we created a brand name change service because this became such a high demand ticket request. It's so very difficult. So if you're running into that problem and you're reaching your limit on that question, go ahead and hire us for it. It is expensive. We're going to charge $1,000 opening retainer to help with this. But for those that, you can't get your A+Content up, you can't get a bunch of other things, it could be very, very beneficial. So I think Nathan just became a member. Thanks for joining us, Nathan. Appreciate you subscribing. If anybody else wants to become a member, just go to youtube.com/myamazonguy and hit that join button. The other thing I would mention here, Arthur, is I can't exactly explain like the whole process quickly enough, but we did this for Adam Heiss. We changed his brand name successfully and saved him a bunch of problems. It's not just a flat file. It's also going to require contacting and talking to Amazon, and loading some key attribute data and filing brand registry tickets. There's just a long process involved here. Scuda says, what's an average viewed percentage time on a listing video? How do I figure out if it's engaging enough? So I would say if you could get at least half of the people to watch the whole video, then you have an engaging video. If you can't get at least half the people to watch 25% of the video, then you got a problem. So when you're looking at that fall off time, I would use YouTube video metrics for this. Kind of the same best practices that work on YouTube will work on Amazon. If you have a dislike versus like ratio that you're just like, what the heck, right? So if you get a lot of dislikes on your video, that could be a signal as well. Videos are not necessarily going to help improve sales on a listing, but they will improve for video ads, I'd say are critical. And I would also say by just simply having any video of any kind, your conversion rate will go up a percentage point on Amazon. So I do think that they're important. There need to be routine. You need to have them, but you're not going to move a whole lot of needle by adding them compared to many other activities like A+Content, main image, those kinds of things. Nicholas says, last question, I promise. I will change. You can ask any questions you want anytime, man. I'm here for you. I will change my packaging, plastic packaging, to cardboard to be more eco-friendly. The main product is the same, but the packaging quite different. Should I use the same listing? Yes, 100%. You may want to say like throw a sticker on your first batch or something like new and improved packaging, or put that into the listing somewhere, because you will throw people off who buy a second one of it. They'll think it's a knockoff. You'll have problems like that with customer service. But yeah, this is totally kosher, 100%, white hat, reuse the listing all day long. Felipe says, how can you help a brand get control over their listings, removing sellers? So number one thing you need is brand registry. Go get a trademark. This might be the first live Q&A. Somebody didn't ask a trademark question. I'm actually really surprised. We file like 45 trademarks a month. So a very popular service. So number one thing you need to do is get a trademark, get your brand registry. You can get that all taken care of in 7 days. And then at that point, we would help file infringements and brand registry tickets to get you control of your listings. If you are in that boat and you would like our support, get a trademark from us. You can always hire us for a coaching call to teach you how to do things, or you could hire us for full service and we'll manage all of these problems for you 24/7 so you don't have to deal with these things. Old Hickory says, how do you change your Seller Central email address when it is the main email on the account without negatively impacting your Seller Central account? This is no longer actually that problematic these days. Very safe to do this. I do have a video where I walk through this. You're just going to go to the settings icon, login info, and simply hit change email. Really that simple these days. Just make sure whatever email you change it to has never been used on Amazon's platform before. Not a buyer account, not another seller account, not a secondary user on another account at all. That's the biggest thing. So I do have a video where I talk about how to change the Amazon video, Amazon login email. I think this is the video in question. Let's see if I'm right. How to change. Yep, this is it. So this is the video you want to watch, Old Hickory. Check this one out. So change email. 750 videos on our YouTube channel. I have an answer to almost every question, but you guys stump me at least 5 times a day. Rana says, if we don't get sales on PPC keywords, our organic rank for that keyword is going to decrease or not? Chances are it will decrease because it's going to show a conversion signal problem. You don't need to worry about this if it's like, 5 clicks, like don't freak out about that. But if you're getting like 30 clicks and 0 sales, I would freak out about that. Because if you're not converting on a keyword, then the organic keyword's not going to convert on that keyword either. And so you will just logically, you're going to see that slough off. Please tell me about your product research tools for Amazon UAE and KSA. So actually, I'm not familiar with any dedicated tool that does this. If anybody knows if Helium 10 or Jungle Scout has good UAA data, please post it in the comment section. And even if you're watching this on the replay, don't hesitate to answer that. I'm sure they'll come back and look for the answer there. Felipe says they have already. We could help them. Nicholas says, by the way, first time I see someone answering so many questions so well. This is so useful. Not sure if you do that often, but I'm subscribed with a bell for sure. You're very welcome. I appreciate the compliment there. I do this every Friday at noon. If you like this one, go watch the other 50 of these that we've done already this year. You will find a ton of good insights and information. So hopefully, Nicholas, you can go look at some of our past Q&As. We do try and title like the main takeaway for each live session in the title to try and help people find it better. But this is my favorite format. One of my current clients, Flying Swine, Joe really persuaded me that I needed to make these a routine activity, and that's why we've done them. Would you think repeating keywords and key phrases and titles, key features, search terms, subject matters makes them more relevant to A9? So This is a mixed bag question. I would recommend doing a 3-phase SEO approach. Phase 1, try and index for as many keywords as possible. So having repetition for those keywords does not make sense when you're trying to do that. You're going to go for shotgun. Second phase of SEO, I call it the pink word update, also the Dennis Rodman update. And in that phase, you're going to go for incremental gains for another 10% indexing. Once you have 50 keywords in the top 50 rankings, that's when you're ready for phase 3, where it's the matriculation phase. And that's when you're going to go ham at trying to stick in the same keyword in every one of those things you just mentioned, Nicholas. So if you have a mature listing, you're ready for that. If you don't have a mature listing, I would not do that yet. I would go for a different angle on that one. We do have some great video content surrounding SEO, probably some of the best in the internet, in my opinion. If you go over to my SEO phase 1 page, I have a free guide that you might want to check out, Nicholas. You can just simply put your information into this and it will send you a free PDF. We have videos. We have a podcast with Ad Badger. We did a 4-part series with Ad Badger where we go super in depth with our SEO. And we give away all of our trade secrets on this. So if you want to know more about SEO, that 4-part series is killer. Highly recommend it. I'll put a link to that in the chat. Check it out. All right. We got time for a couple more questions here. Old Hickory says, thank you. You're very welcome. American Raw Honey, what would you recommend to do if we need to list new products with variations as well as create bundles for those variations in the same listing? This is challenging. Parentage does not cooperate very well with this. If you're doing a virtual bundle, you can't parent. But if you're doing a physical bundle, you could do a style variation or a quantity variation potentially and do a 2-prong variation with a style plus a color. But Amazon does not like those. They may break it up at a later point. Low risk activity, I'd still recommend doing it. But yes, that's what I would do. The video that I posted earlier on parentage would be a good one to watch because I talk about how to convert it from color variation to color and size in that particular video. GB says, you're doing great work. How can I send my own container from China? So what you're going to do is you're going to contact the manufacturer, you're going to negotiate FOB, then you're going to try and find a logistics partner who will arrange the container on your behalf. Easier said than done, but that is what you need to do. House and Hughes says, my question was skipped. Sorry about that. My dozens of ASINs are losing about 1% of their indexing about every week the last 6 or 7 months after launching. You mentioned this is related to sales velocity, but what do you do? What I would do is I would redo your search term field, your A+Content, your titles to try and regain some of those rankings. Number one thing that you need to do. So give that a whirl and check that out. You need to go aggressive with some of those changes. And if you've been static with your listing, that's probably the number one problem. You also could put in to some PPC campaigns, some dedicated SEO keywords that you're trying to rank for. DK says there are no product search tools for UAE yet. Still new to the region. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, unfortunately, but there's probably a few platforms and tools that might try and chase it to be first to market on it. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's not something I'm too familiar with. Kmar says, hey, my Amazon guy, please let me know. I'm not getting organic sales. I'm running 4 campaigns, 2 auto, 1 manual keyword targeting, 1 ASIN. What should I have to do? Run a video ad. Make sure your main ASIN image is also stellar for click-through rate. Make sure you got 6 photos, 1 video, A+Content, and everything optimized from head to toe. Generally speaking, in a situation like yours, if you've done all of the above, you probably need a coaching call to figure out which one of those areas needs some help. You could also consider running a PickFu test to try and help with that as well. We are a PickFu partner. We're big fans of PickFu. And I also have 50% off at PickFu if you want to check that out to run a test on your main photo. So check that out. Here we go. I'm posting a link to PickFu. Check that out right there. Catherine says, when setting up A+Content at preview stage, not submitted or approved yet, our images look blurry, even though we have the image high res. What is your suggestion? I wish I had a solution to this one. This is, I can tell you, just over the last 3 years, I've gotten this question 75 times. 75 times. Without even counting, I know I've been asked this question this many times. There unfortunately is no known solution, Catherine. This is especially problematic on the product grid. When you're loading in the product grid photos, they become blurry after going submitted. Amazon's system just simply translates them very poorly, and there's no known solution to this problem. The only thing I would say is, you could try and transfer into a JPEG format. Don't load PNGs. But even still, we've tried to troubleshoot this so many different ways. We've not found a known solution. If anybody has a solution to this problem, I do want to hear from you. Send an email to podcast@myamazonguy.com or post a comment on here. We're very, very interested in that. Rana says, what's the maximum number of keywords we can add to a listing? Top seller for my product has a total 8,600 keywords. I'm assuming indexed. How can we add that many keywords to our listing? So you don't need to, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to take those 8,600 keywords and parse them. You could use a tool like Frankenstein and Helium-10. I'm a huge fan of their Frankenstein tool. I think it's one of the coolest tools ever. And when you go and do that, you're going to see that you don't really have 8,600 keywords. You probably have more like 1,000. And then of those 1,000, you can select 250 of them to focus on and and when you focus on those 250, you're going to raise probably 6,000 of your 8,600 keywords. So it's all about parsing the data and tracking your keywords and figuring out what makes the most sense and chasing a niche. So for example, if you have 10 competitors, they all rank top 10 for one of your keywords and you're ranked 50 for that, that's a pretty good signal. You need to focus on that keyword and try and get up to the top 10. Well, we would help the brand to remove sellers from their listing. IPC is not the correct way to do that. But if we do that, would it solve the problem of too many sellers on the listing? Yes, there's some legal implications to that. That's why we make our clients sign waivers on that. But yes, it is a tactic. It does work. But Amazon doesn't care. They don't police things. Amazon's policy is pretty much, you figure out your own distribution network. That's your problem, not ours, unfortunately. Gain says main keywords, monthly search volume, 6,000. Search results, there are only 5 products. That includes the keywords in the title. Is this a good signal of low competition? Yes, it is. Anything north of 500 with only 5 products with a 500 search volume, that means 100 people per month are going to be clicking on your product if you split it evenly. So yes, that would be a very good signal that it's a low competition product. I would definitely launch in that vertical with 6,000 search volume. You want to look at other cursory keywords too, though. Make sure you're not just paying attention to one single keyword. I guess I will have a busy week with all of this content. Can you imagine how long it took for me to shoot and make the content, Nicholas? 750 videos. If any of you guys have a favorite video that you like, that you want to tell Nicholas to start on, please feel free to give him one of your favorites. Nicholas, I would also check out the playlists. You may want to start there. There's some really good ones. Some people really like it when I bring on interviews. Other people don't. So if you don't want to hear what other people have to say, you just want to hear what I have to say, don't pay attention to the interview podcasts and playlists. But the Friday Q&A is my favorite. If you like shotgun cursory knowledge, the Friday Q&As are the ones to pay attention to. Alex says, I gave away one of my own branded listings to a friend. I have 0 stock left. He's selling it now. How do I remove this ASIN from Seller Central without deleting it? Because he's selling under it. There's really no way to remove it from Seller Central except deleting it from Seller Central. That won't delete it from Amazon, though. Make sure, what I would do, Alex, is I would do a catalog export. Nicholas, one of the videos, by the way, you need to watch is how to do a category export, because that's an interesting one. And you can do a full backup of all of your data. Once you do that, you could send the data over to your friend and then delete it from Seller Central. And then it's up to him to manage that data moving forward. How do I find profitable products in those markets? Unfortunately, we answered that one earlier. Nobody knows. See you next Friday. I will set up a weekly meeting to make sure I'm here. I love it. Thank you for that enthusiasm. Bill says, if you get brand registered but delay doing A+Content, will it hurt organic ranking? Yes. It won't hurt it because you brand registered. It will just hurt it because you don't have A+Content. You got to get A+Content. It is such a core thing to be a seller on Amazon. So once you get your trademark, the first thing you should do, like within a week of getting brand registered, is go get your A+Content. Consider hiring my Amazon guy. We build out A+Content. We've built over 500 designs out. And you can see a lot of our work here and past designs that we've done. Highly recommend A+Content. SEO, big impact, will absolutely increase your sales velocities immediately. Alex says, what are some of the best ways to get reviews for a new listing at this time? There are none. There are 0 ways to get reviews right now. Vine is one potential way, but it's not very fast. Your email drip series is just broken these days. Feedback Genius was the first tool ever made to collect email feedback. Helium-10 has its own. every Feedback Whiz is probably my favorite, but they don't really work anymore these days. So you're getting a 1% lift from them. So you just need to go get sales. If your first review is 2 stars, I would reach out to the customer and see if you can, give them a refund. But you can't incentivize removing the product review either at the same time. Thank you, my Amazon guy. You're an angel. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Working on a new product bundle for launch in Q4. Any recommendations on what kind of quantity I should be ordering? Would it depend on the category? Yes, it would. But I would say go big or go home for a Q4 launch. I would buy 1,000 units if I were you. And don't come back and say, hey, Steven, I didn't sell anything, because that would make me feel terrible. But generally speaking, the supply chain is such a wreck right now that you're going to sell. The products are in high demand. It's really hard to replenish supply right now. So if you're only going to order 200, it's like, why even do it? Go for 1,000 minimum. Love you guys. How do you find a new product? So generally speaking, I look at the top 100 in a category and I see if there's anything new and trendy, and I'll replicate it and do what's called a co-opting of demand. Now, on the flip side, if you want to be a demand generator, it's harder to do those, but they're 10 times bigger when they are successful. And so if you think about something that gets to market before somebody else, it can be very beneficial. So consider trying to, figure out what your budget is. If you're, low budget, co-op demand all day long. If you're big budget, you're looking for a big win, demand gen, I would consider that. If you change your keywords after starting an auto campaign, will Amazon pick up the new keywords? Yes, they will. 100% safe to do that. How do you get the lowest shipping fee from China? Gain, if I knew that, I'd be a rich man right now. Seriously, $24,000 for a 40-foot container. It's freaking insane right now. When starting from ground zero, what's the most cost-effective way of getting Amazon traffic, getting off Amazon traffic? So I think Google PPC is probably the safest. Facebook is probably the easiest, but not trackable content generally. Influencer marketing might be also something you want to check out. How do you find suppliers other than Alibaba? Do you still recommend Alibaba? Honestly, Amazon has become Alibaba Light. I think the whole platform's been commoditized. We've seen everybody and their dogs become partners of Alibaba, from Helium 10, Jungle Scout, everything else included. So I don't personally do anything off Alibaba, not for my own brands, but I'd say half my clients do. And so it's still doable. The problem, there's just a lot of problems. Everybody has same access to these guys. And so you really have to build a relationship. If you don't build a relationship, you're going to have a problem. Other than Alibaba, you might want to check out Import Yeti. Import Yeti, they show you the direct manufacturer's import information. You might want to check that out as well. Brand is registered, but for some reason we are not able to use it for A+Content. Can you help with this? Yes. Top answer: UPC code not loaded, or brand name not exact match. You can hire us for a coaching call to resolve that, or teach you how to resolve it, or you can just hire us to build your A+Content. We'll solve that problem for you. But yes, that's a very common problem. My A+Content is really not good enough, I think. I didn't know companies could do it for us. Can you share links? How much would it be? $1,000. We don't do 3D printing filaments. We don't touch the product ourselves. But yes, I believe I already posted the link in the chat, but I'll post it here again. A+Content. Check us out for that. DK says, thank you. You're very welcome. Alex says, I tried to find out the customer who wrote the review, going through every single order, but every single order says the customer has not left a feedback. So did they only do a star rating? They didn't leave a product review? That does make it harder, unfortunately. There's no way to trace that person at all, sadly. Hey, man, doing good. No you, me. That reminds me of a Reddit story. Today you, tomorrow me. If anybody hasn't read that one, if you want to feel good today on a Friday, just Google today you, tomorrow me, Reddit. You'll love that story. My Amazon guy, how do you find sales trends over the course of a year for a product on Amazon? So my favorite way to demonstrate this is to show the Mother's Day keyword traffic that my Age of Sage product did. And it did very, very, very well. Basically, the trend line would show 2 years ago, there was 1 million search volume for the term Mother's Day gift. And then last year it was 2 million. And this year it was 5 million. So you can see the trend lines for any keyword. You need a keyword tool like Helium 10 to go in there and look at the trend lines. It'll show you in green if it's going up, red if it's going down, and you can try and figure out the best way to take advantage of that. Physics Passion says, hey, Gain says, are we allowed to add package in the main image? Yes, 100%. You absolutely should do that because your package could be part of the gifting. could be part of the purchase experience. Provided you have the margins, would you just build as much inventory as possible for Q4, regardless of 24K shipping? Yes, I absolutely would. I think Q4 is going to be stellar. I think it's going to be just as strong as last year. And last year was record shattering. So yes, that's definitely what I would do. If you have the capital to invest in inventory right now, that's definitely what I would do. What's the best way to find a product for the UK market? The trend lines and the culture are different over there. But I would still look at the same tools, Helium 10, Jungle Scout, those kinds of things, and try and figure out what is trending, what is competitive, not competitive, what is, less products for higher impression counts. It's easier to be the best when there's only 5 of you versus 50 of you. What's your take on the pesticides issue? Many listings being removed and nothing to do with pesticides. So you need to specify that you're not a pesticides by clicking in the drop down. We do have a video where we talk about this issue and walk you through what to do. So I'm going to give you a link to the pesticides video. Check that one out. And the other thing you should do is figure out what word you're using on the listing that's triggering the pesticides claim, because that could be a very big problem, and remove it. Dainty says, UK account is suspended due to an infringement complaint. What are the odds of getting it reinstated without a retraction from the rights owner? I would say if it's the account itself, that's a lot harder to fix. You need to show that you removed the infringement or that the infringement didn't exist. If you had repeated violations, this is a very, very tough problem to solve. We do have a suspension service that we have if you want to check that out. I think I have a sneeze coming up here. Oh, it's like, there we go. It's going to be a single sneeze event. Suspension service. All right, check that out. That might be able to help you, Dainty. But yes, the infringement restriction suspension, one of the hardest to solve. Difference between keyword and search term. So the search term field on the back end of Amazon is where you put keywords in. The search term could be what somebody used in Amazon's search to find you, but the keyword might be what you're ranking for. So for example, I'm trying to find a good way to explain this. So if I sold this funny beer glass, and if somebody typed in to the search algorithm, funny beer glass, that might be the search term, but the keyword might be, this is the way beer glass, because that's the keyword that I'm ranking for. It's probably a really terrible explanation. I probably didn't do that very good justice, but they're so similar. They're almost interchangeable. You could think about this as in the PPC realm, if you bid on a keyword broad match with a keyword. So if the broad match was beer glass, somebody might do beer glass gift for dad might be the search term. And when you go look at I think that was actually a way better explanation than I gave the first time. So when you go to look at the search term report, you can see what somebody actually typed in versus the keyword that you're advertising on. So why don't I go demo that? Let's go find something I've got some spend on. So I'm sorting my advertising filters right now. So I'm going to post, show you what some of this content looks like. So here's a video. I spent $2,300. I got $3,800 back. So 60% ACoS, a little rough. And if we go into, actually, video may not be able to do this for a video. I've got to go find like an auto campaign. Stand by. See if I can find one here at the last minute. Sage Mom Gift Bass Set. Let's see. Is that a video one? Is it going to be a search term report here? Let me click into the ad group. Yes, this will be a good example. All right. So this one here, ACoS at 90%. So I need to do some negations. So if you go into the targeting, you're going to see that I targeted the word mom gift, right? So I've got a bid of $1.30, which is low for the range of 218. But when I go into the search term, you can see somebody that typed in mom gift might have searched 50th birthday gift for mom. That would be the actual customer search term. And so if we try and sort this data to find a trend line, like where is the biggest problem right now? Spent $24 on the term bonus. And so bonus mom gifts, probably not going to work for me. So I'm going to head over to the negative keyword. I'm going to add the word bonus in, and I'm going to negate it. That means for the next 30 days, I'm going to save $24 minimum every month because I negated that word that didn't work. And that was just one keyword, right? So as you start to look at your search term report, you can find different various things that are not working. Push gift for new mom. So I have no idea what push gift means, right? So I'm going to go over to Amazon.com. I'm going to type in push gift, and let's see what shows up, right? So a lot of different things, but I literally have no idea what the term push even means. So then the next thing I'll do is I'll go over to Google and I'll just, type in push gift and see what comes up to see like what people are defining as a push gift. So push present for a partner, woman, family giving the birthing mother. All right. Who would have known? Didn't even know this thing existed. And I sell Mother's Day gift items, right? No idea that that was a birthing concept. So my item right here may not work for push gift. So if we type in the search term push to see how many other variations of that keyword are showing up, I've spent $15 and no sales. I'm going to search this for 65 days to get a little more data, see if there's any more data on this. And it turns out I actually do have one sale. And so if I had negated this before I looked at the longer data, instead of having a 35% ACOS, I would have had a 60% ACOS term I negated. So keep in mind that when you're looking at your search terms. So I went a little bit more in depth on that question because I thought it was a really good one. Which metrics are important before launching an helium-10 X-ray? So your word before is throwing me off on your question, Gain. But basically, I look at the total sales. I look at the click-through rate, the conversion data, and the total amount of impressions data that's available. And so I would say when you're looking in X-ray to determine like what category to go search, I'm just exploring to see like what products are under tapped. Where could I find products that have a 4-star review average, those kinds of things generally. Did you get your suspended glass reinstated? No, it's permanently suspended for using the word social distancing. So Amazon has become woke. They don't want anybody making fun of social distancing. So that product is toast. It's gone. Moving on to the next one. Alex says, thanks for the answers. You've been really a pro. By the way, I got an invite for hazmat aerosol storage. Still can't figure out what that represents. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's anything that is flammable has an aerosol in it that would allow you to ship in like bottles, canisters, things that are flammable. If you don't sell a hazmat item, it's cool. You got an invite. You don't need to do anything with it. You're not missing out on anything. What is VVRO? I actually do not know that acronym off the top of my head. And when I Google it, I get a bunch of different things on this. So very, very real order. So no idea what this means or what it could be. Feel free to Google that one and let me know if anybody thinks that's of value. A lot of different people saying, bless you. Thank you very much. We love Kelsey. I don't know what that's for. How to remove negative reviews. So negative product reviews are about a 3% chance of being removed. I do have a video on that. I'll post that here, product review removal guide. We actually have a whole website built on feedback review removal as well. Feedback review removal, posted that there. Check that one out. And that particular listing also talks about product reviews. So you can see all the different ways you could try and get a review removed. If they talk about the seller, if they talk about the shipment, we give you some copy and paste answers that you can try and use to try and get those removed. So pretty cool stuff. This is an older article that might be slightly different nowadays, but it's still very directionally helpful. How many listings can we add to an Amazon account? Unlimited, though. Once you get to about 10,000, you might get a warning message that they limit you. They used to charge for adding more than 10,000 listings, but I think they got rid of that in the last 6 months. Good idea, bad idea to sell FBA and FBM simultaneously. Good idea, especially during Q4 when you're going to stock out at FBA. Hey, Amazon guy, kindly suggest to me the best strategy to hunt a winning product in a summarized way. So find a product that you understand. That's the most important thing you need to do. Can't just be a product that is trendy. If you try to get in on the fidget spinner wave, you would have had a lot of problems. That would have been a very, very big problem. You would have bought a bunch of products and none of it would have sold because everybody else and their dogs also bought fidget spinners. So instead, do a product you know. So I used to play in national chess tournaments in high school. And so if I was going to sell a chess set, a chess clock or pieces or whatever, I would have a huge leg up. That's the first thing you need to do when searching for a winning product is understand the product. If you don't understand the category, you're wasting your time. The second thing is, once you understand your product, go find lookalike items and buy them from Amazon and see like how their quality stacks up. If the product has been commoditized and you can't compete because you can't make a better version or add a new look to it, add a different color, add a different kit item or a bonus feature, then move on to the next category. Following that, you're looking for high impression, low competitor data. And I'm running out of wind today. Otherwise, I'd go into more detail. So looking at the last questions to see if I can pick out one or two to end our day on. Nicholas says, Monday, you'll be receiving an email to buy A+Content or a page or two. Well, I appreciate that. You can always talk to my father, Dan Pope, if you want to talk to us about other services. And our last question today will come in from Nathan, who's a member of our channel. Do you know what certificates are needed by Amazon to sell private label dog food? There really aren't any. You don't need any certificates for that as far as I know. Obviously, your dog food, if it doesn't have a safety data sheet or an FDA approval, that might be problematic. Safety data sheet, probably best thing you're going to need to do, though. So with that said, that's our show today. If you like the My Amazon Guy show, please share your feedback. Tell us what you liked about it in the comments, or just say thank you, whatever you're willing to do. Every comment helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Do I do patents? I do not. We do trademarks, though. Lots and lots of trademarks. That's the show today, and wish you the best. We'll see you next Friday, every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And you guys are all a fabulous crew. Check us out at myamazonguy.com.